Forget your $2,000 refrigerator. This pile of dirt and straw produced a year of free refrigeration. Without a single watt of electricity. For centuries it worked. Then the cooling industry made sure you forgot it. Think about that. A $40 hole in the ground. Cold food for 12 straight months. Zero electricity. Forever. You have never heard of it in school, on television, or from any contractor who quoted you a job. Why aren't we using it? Because the industry hopes you never learn what I am about to show you. Here's a number that should make you angry. Your refrigerator eats 15% of your entire home electricity bill. Every single month, year after year, for your entire life. Add the freezer. Add the summer air conditioner, and suddenly cooling becomes the biggest silent monthly tax, hiding quietly inside every corner of your house. Now think about the last power outage in your neighborhood. 4 hours, maybe 6. Everything in the fridge softened. Meat in the freezer started sweating. You threw $300 of groceries away and called it bad luck. It wasn't bad luck. It was a century-old design choice that chained your food to a fragile electrical wire. And that wire is getting expensive. Cooling costs in most regions have roughly doubled over the last 20 years. Heat waves last longer. Grids are older. Utilities raise their rates whenever they feel like it. And we quietly pay. Because we simply forgot that our grandparents solved this cooling problem with dirt, straw, and a plain shovel. Yet a forgotten building did exactly this for free for thousands of years before General Electric ever existed. The building has many names. In Persia, they called it a yakhchāl, an ancient dome of clay and mud. In Rome, workers cut ice from the mountains and hauled massive blocks into deep, cold stone pits. In colonial America, almost every large farm had one, tucked into a north-facing slope behind the barn. In England, the aristocracy built brick domes, half buried in the garden. In China, they carved cliff chambers. Every civilization that ever needed cold food figured this out independently. The method was almost embarrassingly simple. In winter, when temperatures dropped below freezing, workers cut blocks of ice from ponds and shallow reservoirs. They dragged those blocks into a deep insulated chamber and packed them with sawdust, straw, or leaves. Then they sealed the door and walked away. That single harvest kept food cold through the autumn. No compressor, no freon, no copper coils, no electric bill, no moving parts. Nothing to break down. For centuries, this was the standard method of preserving food across 3 continents, from Rome to America. Then, in about 1 generation, it vanished from mainstream memory. Not because it stopped working, ever. It never stopped working. It was erased. And the physics behind it is almost too simple to believe. The Earth, about 3 meters below the surface, sits at a nearly constant temperature all year round. In most temperate zones, that soil temperature stays between 8 and 12 degrees Celsius year after year. It doesn't care about the summer heat wave. It doesn't care about the blizzard howling overhead. Nothing changes. It's a giant thermal battery sitting under your feet right now, completely free, and nobody uses it. Layer that stable earth with straw bales, sawdust, or rice husks, and you create insulation rivaling modern spray foam. Straw alone hits about right 1.5 per inch. Dry, packed sawdust performs even better than commercial foam products. Stack 2 feet around a block of ice, and it loses less than 2% of mass monthly. Now add the trick Persian engineers perfected over 2,000 years ago. The yakhchāl was not just a pit. It rose as a tall conical dome 10 meters high, connected to a water channel and wind catchers. The dome radiated heat to the cold night sky. Wind catchers pulled desert air across shallow evaporating water. On clear winter nights, water in the trough froze even when air temperature stayed above 0 degrees. The sky itself acts as a heatsink, radiating at roughly -40 degrees, pulling warmth straight upward. Persians harvested that ice, dropped it underground, and sealed the chamber with a thick insulating mud dome. A structure that produced and stored ice in a desert. No electricity, no refrigerant, no moving parts anywhere. Thermal mass beats active cooling. That is the sentence the HVAC industry hopes you never truly internalize. A large cold block, properly insulated, holds temperature longer than any machine can economically maintain. The math wins. But here is what mainstream engineers always get wrong when they wave this ancient wisdom completely away. They say modern fridges are efficient. They are not. They only look efficient because we measured the wrong thing. A compressor fridge takes electricity and dumps 90% of that energy back into your kitchen as waste heat. That waste heat forces your air conditioner to work harder every summer. You are literally paying for cooling twice. An ice house loses under 10% of its stored cold per month through the walls. That is it. There is no waste heat cycle, no compressor, no phase change loop running 24 hours a day forever. Thermodynamics favors passive thermal storage over active refrigeration once you count the full energy chain from plant to plug. So why did it die? Because it was killed, deliberately. Starting in 1920, an industry moved against it. By the 30s, the electric appliance industry launched one of the most successful marketing campaigns in modern history. General Electric, Frigidaire, Kelvinator did not just sell refrigerators. They lobbied cities to outlaw shared community ice houses. They pushed zoning boards to classify ice pits as unsanitary and funded newspaper columns that mocked the old methods. Community ice houses, where neighbors shared one chamber, threatened the model of selling one electric box per kitchen. So they had to go. And they went. Within 20 years, the knowledge was gone from average homes. Within 40 years, it vanished from the building trades. Today, most architects have never heard the word yakhchāl. Wait until you see the real numbers. 1 ton of melting ice absorbs about 330 megajoules of heat. Convert that to electric refrigeration equivalent and you get roughly 350 kilowatt-hours of cooling. Per ton. Sitting there. Doing nothing. Costing you nothing. The Persian yakhchāl stored up to 5,000 tons of ice. 5,000 tons. The cooling equivalent of 1.7 million kilowatt-hours. Enough for 200 fridge years. Built by hand, from mud, in a desert, with zero annual energy input. Compare that to your modern house. A modern refrigerator burns 400 to 600 kilowatt-hours per year, $100 to $200 annually. Add a chest freezer, you're pushing 300. Multiply by an ice house's 40-year lifespan, easily achieved. You're looking north of $12,000 to $24,000 in electricity, quietly leaving your account over decades. A backyard ice house sized for one family pays for itself in under 18 months, sometimes one summer. Factor in avoided grocery spoilage and reduced air conditioning load, this system pays you back fast. Now imagine building one in your backyard, because this is not theoretical, people are doing it now, on homesteads and off-grid properties across 3 continents. The method hasn't changed much in 1,000 years. You start with a north-facing slope. North-facing matters. The goal is to minimize solar gain on the dome. You dig a pit roughly 3 meters deep and 3 meters across, well below the natural frost line. That depth puts the floor inside the constant temperature layer of the earth. Half the battle is already won. You line the pit with clay. Clay is a natural moisture barrier and a decent thermal buffer for storage. Around the clay you stack straw bales, 2 rows thick, tight and kept bone dry always. The straw is your insulation blanket. If you have sawdust available, dump it into every remaining gap. Sawdust is the historical champion of icehouse insulation. Cheap, thick, and it barely settles when dry. In winter, when a nearby pond freezes down to -10 Celsius or colder, you harvest the ice. You cut the ice in slabs about 30 centimeters thick. You drag those heavy slabs to the pit. You stack them like bricks, with a layer of sawdust packed between every single layer of ice. The sawdust is critical. It stops the blocks from freezing into one solid, unbreakable mass over winter. It insulates each individual slab from the others. If one block starts melting, the others stay frozen. You keep stacking until the pit is nearly full. You leave a small air gap right at the top. Then you cap the whole pit with an earthen dome, half a meter thick, packed extremely hard. You cover it with turf or shade cloth. It reflects sunlight, sheds rain, radiates heat to night. Cut a small insulated door on the north side, ideally with a double airlock, so cold air stays inside. That door opens into your walk-in cold room, now producing free refrigeration for the next 12 months. The savings math will shock your accountant. Let us break it down, honestly, dollar by dollar now. Materials: clay, straw bales, sawdust, wooden frame, simple door. Run $300 to $800 new. With farm access or free mill sawdust, you can build the whole thing for under $200. Labor is 1 weekend with a helper and small excavator, or 2 weekends using only basic hand tools. Now lifespan is the killer statistic. A well-built ice house easily lasts 40 years or considerably more. Some Persian yakhchāls are still standing after 800 years. 800 years. Think about that. Your refrigerator dies in 10 to 15 years, demanding a $2,000 replacement plus constant repairs, plus rising electricity costs the whole time. Run the numbers over 40 years. Honestly, reality bites hard. Grid refrigeration costs $600 yearly. Electricity, replacement fridges, freezer, and repair calls stacking up. 40 years times 600 equals $24,000 minimum, assuming rates never climb, which they will. Ice house over the same 40 years, maybe $1,000 in build, 1 weekend yearly to harvest, total lifetime cost under $2,000. Net savings over $22,000 per household lifetime. That is just the money. The food security bonus is enormous. When the grid dies, neighbors lose groceries. You do not. When rates spike in heat waves, your bill does not move. When hurricanes hit, meat stays frozen. This is real resilience, not the fake kind sold on infomercials. The kind our grandparents took for granted. So why is nobody building this today? Follow the money and follow the paperwork. Utility revenue depends on refrigerators. Cooling is the largest residential electricity load in developed countries. 10% switching to ice would collapse utility revenues. So there is quiet, persistent pressure to keep alternatives out of sight. Then there are the building codes. In most municipalities, digging a large food storage pit is either banned outright or requires so many permits nobody bothers. Zoning codes call them ice pits, root cellars, or unpermitted structures. Some jurisdictions ban them outright on health grounds. Even though there is no real health risk from a properly built cellar. That argument was written decades ago, at the request of appliance manufacturers. The HVAC lobby writes the building codes. There is not conspiracy theory, there is documented. Industry associations sit on the committees drafting the model codes that your city adopts. And those codes are written to favor mechanical systems over passive ones, because the industry sells mechanical systems. The cooling industry doesn't want you to know a hole in the ground outperforms their product on lifetime cost. They especially don't want you to know it's easy to build. That's the real threat, not physics, accessibility. One more low-tech secret before you go, because ice houses are only the beginning of what ancient physics unlocks. The same physics behind the yakhchāl drives something even wilder, the solar chimney. A tall, dark ventilation shaft. It pulls cool air from the ground and pushes hot air out the top, powered by nothing but sunlight. No fans, no compressors. Room temperature air conditioning for free in the middle of a scorching desert summer. If you found this useful, subscribe. Next video we build a solar chimney and prove the physics on camera. Share this with someone building a house or anyone paying way too much for their monthly electricity bill. They deserve to know these methods still work and that they were hidden from them on purpose. They deserve the chance to take that cooling bill back to zero, permanently,